In 1674, workmen demolishing a staircase in the Tower of London struck a wooden box buried 10 feet down. Inside, the skeletons of 2 children, one aged around 12, the other around 9. The workers didn't know it yet, but they may have just solved, or deepened, the greatest cold case in English history. Because almost 200 years earlier, in the summer of 1483, 2 boys of exactly those ages had walked into that same fortress. One of them was the King of England. Neither of them ever walked out. No bodies were shown. No funeral was held. No one was ever charged. And here's the detail that should keep you up tonight. Those bones, sealed in an urn in Westminster Abbey since 1678, have never been DNA tested. The Crown has refused every request. Why? To answer that, we have to go back to the 10 weeks in 1483 when England's throne was stolen in broad daylight, and 2 children simply ceased to exist. April 9th, 1483. King Edward IV of England dies suddenly at just 40 years old. His heir is his son, Edward V, a 12-year-old boy, too young to rule alone. So the dead king's will names a protector, his loyal brother, Richard, Duke of Gloucester, a battle-hardened, famously dutiful man. On April 29th, Richard intercepts the young king's escort at Stony Stratford. He arrests the boy's uncle, Earl Rivers, and his half-brother, Richard Grey, the men raising him. Both will be beheaded within weeks, without trial. Richard escorts his nephew to London and lodges him in the Tower, which, remember, was a royal palace then, not yet the prison of legend. It's where kings traditionally stayed before coronation. Nothing looks wrong. The coronation is set for June 22nd. Invitations go out. Coins are minted in Edward Fee's name. On June 16th, Richard persuades the boy's terrified mother, Elizabeth Woodville, to release her younger son, 9-year-old Richard of Shrewsbury, from sanctuary at Westminster so he can attend his brother's coronation. She hands him over. It is the last time she will ever see either of her sons, because 6 days later, everything changes. June 22nd, 1483, the day Edward V should have been crowned. Instead, a preacher named Ralph Shaw stands at St. Paul's Cross and drops a bombshell. The boys are illegitimate. The claim? Before marrying their mother, Edward IV had secretly been pre-contracted to another woman, Lady Eleanor Butler. Under church law, that made his marriage void and his children bastards, barred from the throne. Convenient? Extraordinarily. Within 4 days, Parliament petitions Richard to take the crown. On July 6th, 1483, he is crowned King Richard III. And the boys in the Tower. An Italian visitor named Dominic Mancini, our only real eyewitness source, records something chilling. He writes that the princes were withdrawn deeper into the inner apartments, seen more rarely behind the bars and windows, until they stopped appearing altogether. Their attendants were dismissed. Their physician, Dr. Argentine, the last outsider to see Edward V alive, reported that the boy king was preparing for death like a victim, confessing his sins daily, believing death was coming for him. By late summer 1483, the sightings stopped completely. 2 royal children, the most famous boys in England, vanish inside the most heavily guarded fortress in the country. But here's what most documentaries won't tell you. No one, at the time, produced a single piece of evidence about what happened next. The accepted story comes to us from Sir Thomas More, writing around 1513. According to More, Richard III ordered the deed done. His agent, Sir James Tyrrell, recruited 2 men, Miles Forrest and John Deaton, who crept into the prince's bedchamber at midnight and smothered the boys under their own feather pillows and bedding, pressing down until, in More's words, they gave up to God their innocent souls. The bodies, he says, were buried at the stair foot, meetly deep in the ground under a great heap of stones. Now hold that phrase in your mind, at the stairfoot. Because in 1674, when those workmen broke open the staircase leading to the chapel of the White Tower, they found two children's skeletons exactly 10 feet down. King Charles II was so convinced, he had the bones placed in a marble urn in Westminster Abbey where they remain today. Case closed? Not quite. More was 4 years old when the princes vanished. His source? Reportedly a confession Tyrrell gave in 1502, while imprisoned in the Tower, facing execution for treason, likely under torture. No transcript of that confession has ever been found. And when the bones were scientifically examined in 1933, the two experts confirmed the ages matched, but they never established the sex of the skeletons, or the century they died in, and that's where this case cracks wide open. Because here is the uncomfortable question. If Richard III murdered his nephews to secure his throne, why did he never announce they were dead? Think about it. Rumors of their survival fueled every rebellion against him. Dead princes, shown publicly dead of fever, would have ended the threat. Instead, silence. And Richard isn't the only suspect. The Duke of Buckingham had access, motive, and his own distant claim to the throne, and he rebelled against Richard in October 1483. Then there's Henry Tudor, who killed Richard at Bosworth in 1485 and became Henry VII. Henry's claim to the throne depended on marrying the prince's sister, which required repealing the law that made them illegitimate. But if the boys were bastards no longer and alive, they were the rightful kings, and Henry was the usurper. Henry had more to gain from their deaths than anyone. And now the twist that historians are still fighting about. In 1491, a young man surfaced in Ireland claiming to be Richard of Shrewsbury, the younger prince, escaped from the Tower. History calls him Perkin Warbeck, a Flemish impostor. But the King of Scotland believed him enough to give him a noble bride. The Holy Roman Emperor recognized him, and the princess's own aunt, Margaret of Burgundy, embraced him as her nephew. In 2021, researcher Philippa Langley, the woman who found Richard III's body under a Leicester car park, announced archival documents suggesting both princes may have survived 1483 and been quietly moved abroad. If that's true, England executed its rightful king in 1499 and called him a fraud. So why don't we just test the bones? The urn is right there in Westminster Abbey. Modern DNA analysis could compare them to Richard III's remains. We sequenced his genome in 2014. We could determine sex, age, cause of death, even the era they died. One test could end 5 centuries of argument. The requests have been made, repeatedly, and repeatedly they have been refused. The Abbey answers to the Crown, and the position has been consistent. The urn stays sealed. Officially, it's about the sanctity of royal burials, and the precedent it might set for disturbing other tombs. But consider what a negative result would mean. If those bones aren't the prince's, if they turn out to be Roman-era remains, or 2 girls, or children from another century entirely, then the physical evidence at the heart of the case evaporates. The staircase burial, Thomas More's account, Tyrrell's lost confession, the entire accepted narrative collapses, and the question becomes unanswerable forever. Some mysteries, it seems, are considered safer sealed in marble. And that brings us to the question you've been waiting for. Who actually did it? Weigh it yourself. Richard III had custody, opportunity, and the oldest motive in the world, a crown. Most historians still name him, but he never showed the bodies, never took the credit, and died fighting with the mystery unsolved. Buckingham had access and ambition, and conveniently lost his head before he could talk. Henry VII had the strongest motive of all, dated his reign to the day before Bosworth, so he could execute Richard's supporters as traitors, and spent years hunting down a young man that half the royal houses of Europe believed was a living prince. And somewhere in Westminster Abbey, sealed in Wren's marble urn, two small skeletons hold an answer no one is allowed to hear. Two boys walked into the Tower of London in the summer of 1483, 12 years old, 9 years old, a king and a duke. And whether they died under feather pillows at midnight or lived out secret lives under borrowed names, England has never stopped looking for them. So, who do you think did it? Richard, Buckingham, Henry Tudor? Or did the princes escape after all? Drop your theory in the comments. And if you want more cases like this, you know what to do. But here's what nobody tells you. This case is directly connected to something even more disturbing. And that story? It's right here. Subscribe and hit that bell. A new mystery drops every single day.